So thank you for joining me today in this time of self-discovery. We're going to do somatic movement, somatic exercises, which is about retraining the brain and retraining the nervous system. So all too often our system is in a chronic state of tightness, tension. And it has the ability, when we do this conscious, controlled relaxation, conscious, controlled movements, to allow the system to notice a new point of baseline. And so that is the base of this class. So I invite you to find a comfortable position, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more. And so you can lay down, your eyes can close, you can have a pillow underneath your knees, or anything that you desire. And so our nervous system tells us which muscles to contract and when to loosen and release them. It tells our body how to stand or sit. Even when we are not moving, it is engaged. Our nervous system runs the whole show. It's the director, and you are the star. For somatic education to be effective, we must engage the central nervous system. And in other types of body work, such as massage or chiro or other modalities, the client is passive. While these treatments may feel good, they usually don't create long-lasting change. So that is what we're looking to do today, to engage the nervous system, which means that if we feel any pain or discomfort, we just want to let the system not do that motion. We're going to throw away all our knowledge of Pilates, stretching, physio movements that we know, allowing your brain to be soft and receptive to this new style of movement. Allowing your system to engage with the nervous system, creating long-lasting change, creating new neural pathways. And to do this, you must be actively moving, contracting, and releasing your muscles. The movements that we do are called pendiculation. It involves the part of the brain called the motor cortex. It is a two-part process. First, you make a comfortable voluntary contraction of the muscle groups. Second, you do slow, steady, controlled release of the muscles to relaxation. And this process naturally lengthens the tight and painful muscles that we are so familiar with. It's like when you watch a cat or a dog stretch in the morning, and they get up and they arch, and slowly they control, move out of it. The slower the movement, the more perception into change that we have. The motor cortex allows new neural pathways to be presented and for a new resting level to be available. So taking a few moments here and now to allow yourself to do a soma scan. When we say soma, it is body. When we say somatic, it is the interiorization of the experience. So allowing yourself to be cozy, letting your legs be long or having the knees bent, whatever feels right for you. Noticing the sounds around us today, allowing those sounds to allow us to go even deeper into our own awareness. Moving your attention and awareness to your breath. Notice where it moves and where it doesn't. Is it a full, expansive breath, or is it shallow? Allowing your focus to move to your head. Notice, is it tilted back or forward, more to one side or the other? Notice any tension in the neck, head, and face. Moving your awareness to your shoulders. Are they up by your ears? Are they down? Are they concave or down into the floor? Moving your perception now to your shoulder blades. Notice, is one higher than the other? Is one pressed more into the floor than the other? Bringing your focus to your chest. Is there tension or tightness? And noticing now where your arms are in relationship to your body. Are they out to the sides or up? Are your palms up or down? Allowing yourself just to notice the tensions through the arms, all the way to the hands and fingertips. And moving your attention now into the mid-back, noticing if one side is more connected to the floor than the other. And into the abdomen, lower ribs, and lower back. Allowing yourself to bring awareness to your hips, low back, and pelvis. Notice, does one hip feel higher than the other? Does one glute feel more tense than the other? Just allowing yourself to notice what you notice. Not trying to change or modify. Just allowing yourself to take notice. Moving your attention into the pelvic floor and noticing if there's tension in through the glutes and down into the legs. Noticing if one leg feels longer than the other or heavier. Noticing down into the ankles and feet, if they're internally rotated or externally rotated. Just noticing what you notice. Noticing if there's tension more in one leg than the other. And allowing yourself just to take notice. When you're ready, I'll have you bring your feet flat on the floor so your knees are pointed up to the ceiling. I'm going to take a little bit of attention into our breath, allowing ourselves to imagine a string being connected to our belly button and to the ceiling. And just noticing as you breathe in, the belly button rising to the ceiling. And as you breathe out, coming to neutral. Breathing in, the belly button rises to the ceiling, letting your attention go to your tailbone. Breathing out, body goes to neutral. Breathing in, the belly button goes to the ceiling, tip of the tailbone will gently rock down to the floor. Breathing out, just to neutral. Breathing in, belly button goes up to the ceiling, tip of tailbone rocks down. You'll notice a gentle arch in the lower back. Breathing out, just to neutral. Tailbone floats up. Breathing in, belly button rises, back gently arches, tip of tailbone goes down. And as you breathe out, allow yourself to contract a little as you get past neutral, flattening the back to the floor. The tip of the tailbone will go up just a little bit to the ceiling. Breathing in, Belly button rises. And breathing out. Tailbone floats up as back connects to the floor. Knowing that these movements are very soft and gentle. And just allowing yourself to breathe at your own pace for a moment. And see if you can allow all the muscles that got engaged in that movement to soften. Not worrying about the tailbone moving now. See, can you be soft in your breath? And bringing your awareness now again as you breathe in, that belly button will rise to the ceiling, tip of the tailbone will rock down, gentle arch in your back. As you breathe out, past neutral, gentle contraction in through the abdomen, back will flatten, tip of tailbone rocks up. And as you take your next breath, let everything soften. Let everything relax. All the muscles in the legs, in the glutes, and the pelvic floor. Allow them all to soften and just rest. I'm going to take our arms out to a T position. Allowing one palm to be up to the ceiling. And we'll do the left or the right palm up to the ceiling. And so allowing ourselves to rotate from the shoulders, changing the hand positions so that right palm will change to go down. Allow ourselves to notice, are we moving from the elbows or from the shoulders? And slowly, with control, allow the change to happen. You'll notice you can even exaggerate the motion in the shoulders. With the palm that is up, the shoulder blade and shoulder will be pressed down into the floor. Remembering if there's any pain or discomfort, less is more. And as we change the hand positions, the one that goes up, the shoulder blade is down to the floor, and when it changes to being down on the floor, the shoulder is rotated forward in the socket. And giving yourself a moment to look towards the hand that is up. Turning our head towards the hand that is up. And slowly, with control, as we change the hand positions, rotating from the shoulders, gently turn your head to the new palm that is up. So rotating, and see if you can do them at the same time. And following through at your own pace. In between each rotation, allowing yourself to soften and rest. Taking your time, relearning a movement. Relearning lost movements, in fact. And let everything soften and everything rest. Allowing the core to soften. And then on the next one, when you're ready, we're going to engage the lower part of the body. And so if we have our head and arm, our right arm up to the ceiling, we're going to very gently drift the left leg. So we're going to leave our arm on the floor. Our palm is up to the ceiling, and we'll turn our head to that right palm. Gently drifting our knees to the opposite side, just a little bit. For this is where we're going to really engage our system and slowly with control bringing the knees and head to neutral. And so with this, you're going to really notice into the glutes, right? And when you get to neutral, changing hand positions, rotating from the shoulders, let everything soften, let everything rest. And then gently drift the knees to the opposite direction of the head. Just a little bit, remembering less is more. And slowly with control, bringing the knees back to the neutral, really noticing what is firing. When at neutral, let everything soften, let everything rest. And so head is turned to the open palm, knees are gently drifted to the opposite direction, and slowly with control, bringing it all back to neutral. And so this is where we really get to throw out any past learned exercises. It's not about how far we can go. What we're really looking for is the quality of movement back to neutral. And slow and steady with control, bringing it all back to neutral. And so if you notice that you move really quick, that's what we call sensor motor amnesia. That's missing information. And so when we have that, we want to go back just before we felt it and bring ourselves through again. It's like sanding a spot on the wall. We want it to be smooth. We want it to be controlled. And slow and with control, bringing it all to neutral. And let the body rest. The arms can find a position that feels peaceful and right for you. The legs can extend out. I'm going to do a little bit of leg work here. And really honoring the system, being curious about what you notice from side to side. Even taking a notice in through your body, noticing how the body may feel different now than when you were in this position a few moments ago. And just inviting everything to soften and everything to rest. And notice as you allow your system that possibility, what you notice. And so we're going to do what is called a hip hike. We're going to start with the left leg. And we're going to think about a little connection between the armpit and the hip. And so on that left leg, thinking about connecting and shortening the line between the armpit and that left hip. And as you do so, slowly with control, release it back down to neutral. And then let everything soften and everything rest. And when you're ready, we're going to go to the right side. Again, thinking about shortening that line from the top of the hip where the pants sit to the armpit. Contracting the side body, bringing that left or that hip up to the armpit, and slowly with control, lengthening it back down. Again, on left, engaging that sideline, bringing that hip a little closer to the armpit. You'll notice the leg gets a little shorter and the other gets a little longer. And slow with control, bringing it all back to neutral. Passing neutral, changing to the other leg. At neutral, if need be, allow everything to soften, everything to rest, giving our body that opportunity to have that reset in between. So it's starting from a restful place versus a engaged place, right? So letting everything soften and everything rest. And 2 more times on each side. One and then the other at your own pace. Hip hiking the one, the other leg goes long, and slowly with control, bringing it back down to neutral. Letting everything soften, letting everything rest. Engaging the other one when you're ready. And 1 more time on each side. Remembering less is more. And once you've completed that, allow everything to soften and everything to rest. Allowing your arms to rest wherever it's comfortable for you in this moment of time. And letting all the muscles that got engaged in that hip hike just to rest and to soften, to unclench the glutes, to let the quads relax. I'm going to do an external and internal rotation of the leg. So what we're going to do is called a butterfly. And we're going to do one leg first. Your arms in neutral, and your legs long and relaxed. I'm going to externally rotate one leg. And start with that left leg. Turning the sole of your foot inward towards the other leg. Allow your knee to gently open to the outside. Slowly, with control, draw your foot upwards, sliding it along the floor or atop the opposite leg. And slowly, with control, allowing that leg to extend out straight back to neutral. Noticing for that sense or motor amnesia, those quickenings or those little jolts. So slowly with control, sliding it back down. And some people find that moving the mat out of the way can be helpful, rolling it up so your feet can slide on the floor. And slowly, like a slow motion movie, engaging the other leg. Noticing, can you do this motion with control? And allowing everything to soften when you get up to stop position. And slowly, with control, extending back to neutral. Slow with control. Notice if it kind of clunks or anything like that, recontract. And take it through again. And watch on the bottom end, when you place your foot back into neutral, that you are controlling all the way down. And so, taking it down just a little bit right there and move from there, that position there, taking it up again. So notice how it kind of jumps. Yeah, that's that sensor motor amnesia. And so slow and steady, allowing it. Did you feel that jar? So recontract just that little bit right there, and then slow and steady, taking it through. Yeah, there it is again. That's lots, and then through. And so there's, and then so slow and steady, all the way down to neutral. All the control, all the control. And then let everything soften and everything rest. A few breaths there, and then going with that one. And so even as you begin, notice, yeah. And so just even playing just with that to gain the information and the control. As you move into position, there might be missing information there. And so just playing with that first little step and reaffirming, regathering that information in that small little bit of that first motion and movement. Because when we just push through, it's like overriding, and we're just teaching poor body mechanics. We're teaching continual tightness. We're teaching stuff we really don't want to actually learn. And so that is what this movement exercise is inviting you to be really curious about. How to do things differently. How to find the missing information. And instead of doing things the same old, status quo, how can we do it differently? And when you are back at neutral, just allowing yourself to soften, allowing yourself to rest. Yeah, good witnessing. Noticing how the one side may be very different from the other. Noticing what muscles are getting engaged to do this motion. And can you slowly, with control, bring it through the motion, through the movement? And slow and steady. Feeling the rotation from the hip. And control all the way down. And allowing everything to soften. Everything to rest. I'm going to have a conversation now with the legs about internal rotation, what we enduringly call knock-kneed. So starting with the left leg, thinking about rolling in from the hip, moving the knee inward. And as we get to the point where our heel will start to glide outward on the floor, as the knee continues to rotate in, and the knee will bend and the foot will glide in a little rainbow arch along the floor. Again, it can be a little easier with the mat moved so the foot can glide with ease. And remembering, it's not about how far we can go. It's all about our control, bringing it back to neutral. And slowly bringing it back to neutral. We'll walk you through this side again. So we're going to think about turning the sole outwards, drawing the knee inwards to the other. Slowly, with control, drawing it upward along the floor, rotating from the hip. And slowly, with control, bringing it back. And letting everything soften and everything rest. And sometimes for me, I find doing them both at the same time almost helps figure it out. And so from neutral, thinking about drawing both the knees together from the hips. So letting everything soften and everything rest before you do begin. And then rolling in from the hips, like our knees are going together and our toes are going to slowly point together as we drop to the side, and slowly with control, bringing it down to neutral. controlling in through the hips, not just the knees. And then letting everything soften and everything rest. And if you guys find that doing them together is a little easier, continue to do it that way, really making sure that you rotate from the hips. It's almost like the hip bones are going to get a little engaged. The front of the hips will almost come together a little bit. The back body gets a little wider as the knees go in together. And even from neutral, just playing with that rotation, that opening, that softening in the hips. Because we can hold a lot of tension in the hips. And inviting that slow and controlled motion into any movements that we do can allow a lot of information to be had. And when you're at neutral, allow everything to soften and everything to rest. And so just from neutral here, thinking about widening the front pelvis as we externally rotate, letting those knees go out. Just thinking about the movement from the pelvis. And then slowly with control, bringing the thighs back to neutral, the hips back to neutral. Thinking about internally rotating the thighs, feeling that expansion through the glutes, the widening, and slowly with control, allow it to neutral. Wonderful. And when you're ready, turning over onto your stomach. And some people like a pillow underneath their ankles here for support, and some don't. It's really your call to notice what you prefer. Your hands can rest comfortably up underneath your forehead. And from this position, we're just going to take a breath here and see if we can let everything soften. Let everything rest. And our next thought of movement is going to be just lifting the elbows up off of the floor, noticing if we engage through our rhomboids, and slowly with control bringing them down to neutral. Remembering less is more. It's all about the slow and control all the way down. And once you're all the way down, allowing everything to soften and everything to rest. And when you're ready, gently, just a little bit, like a third of the way that you did before, lifting the elbows up off the floor. And then right there, slowly with control, like a slow motion movie, taking them back down to neutral. Noticing, do they flutter like butterfly wings? If they do, re-engage the contraction a little bit, lifting the elbows up again and slowly releasing them down. This is that opportunity to retrain very tight muscles that have been working way too hard for way too long. Remembering once you're at neutral to soften and let everything rest. And slowly, when you're ready, lifting the elbows up off the floor just a little bit, and slowly with control, bring them back down. And notice if they are like butterfly wings fluttering, engage the contraction again, lifting them up off the floor just before they started to flutter. And taking them all the way down to the floor with control. Remembering to let everything soften, everything rest. Recontract a little bit, yeah, and then slowly bring it back down through there. Really control all the way down to neutral. And then letting everything soften, letting everything rest. Before you begin another one, we're going to turn the head to the left. So we're looking at the left crook of our elbow. We're going to think about the left palm being glued to the right cheek. And that right arm can rest wherever it is comfortable. I'm going to think about looking up over that left shoulder. So lifting the elbow, the shoulder, neck, and head up off of the floor. Thinking about contracting through the rhomboid and the hip. Thinking about the hand being glued to our cheek. So as we lift, the elbow comes up off the floor. And then when we engage, the hand will come up off the floor too, like it's glued to your cheek. And slowly with control, bringing it back to neutral. And let everything soften and everything rest. And when you're ready, we're going to do it again. So on your next breath, thinking about lifting the head, neck, elbow, hand up off the floor and engaging the opposite leg, lifting from the hip off the floor and slowly with control, lengthening that back line between the shoulder blade and the hip. Control all the way down. And then full soften, full relax. And you can even draw it with your eyes, thinking about looking up and over that left shoulder, lifting the leg from the hip, shortening through here, and slowly with control, bringing it all back down to neutral. And notice if there's any of that glitching or anything else like that. That's when you recontract and start again. That being said, if there's any pain or discomfort, less is more. Okay? We're going to do one more time on this side after you've taken a moment to rest and reset. And sometimes even just in your mind's eye, imagining looking up and over that left shoulder. Hand is glued to the cheek as you lift the head, neck, hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder up off the floor. Lifting up that opposite leg. So lifting elbow too if you can, and wrist. That's lots. Slow and control all the way back to neutral. Notice that. So that was a speed up. So recontract just a little bit and then taking it through slow and steady. Right there again. Recontract a little. Slow and steady. All control. A little bit up again. Slow and steady with control. All the way to neutral. All the way. Don't let it go too fast. All the way. Control all the way to neutral. Then when you're at neutral, allowing everything to soften and everything to rest. And then when you're ready, you can turn your head to the opposite elbow, looking in the opposite direction. And slowly with control, thinking about the eyes, looking up and over that shoulder, and slowly with control, bringing it down. Notice there. Recontract, slow and steady. Remembering to breathe. It's a tricky key. Control all the way back down to neutral. And soften and rest. Remembering to soften and rest once you're all the way back down to neutral. And on the next one, engaging the leg, lifting from the hip, engaging, yeah. And slow and control, releasing that back line. Really listening for that sensor motor amnesia. Recontracting if it comes into play at all. And remembering to control all the way down to the bottom. Really being mindful of that last little leg, that last little step. And if it speeds up, that is sensor motor amnesia. We're missing information. So that's when we recontract and take it through again. And when we're at neutral, full soft, full rest. Allow any muscles that got engaged at all to soften and rest. One more time on this side. Lifting head, neck, elbow up off the floor and hand. Looking over that right shoulder, shortening the line between the hip and the shoulder blade, and slowly with control, really being mindful of those sensor motor amnesias, those glitches. Slowly with control all the way down. And this is where the less is more, because the further we go up, the more area we have to communicate with. Letting everything soften, everything rest. All the muscles that got engaged. And when you're ready, turning over onto your back. And we're going to have the knees up to the ceiling, the feet flat on the floor. And we're going to bring our awareness into our breath again. Allowing everything to soften as much as we can in this position. I'm going to think on the next breath in about that belly button rising to the ceiling, noticing a very gentle arch in the lower back. We'll feel the tip of the tailbone glide down towards the table. As we breathe out, tip of the tailbone will come up to the ceiling and the back will flatten on the floor. Allowing our focus and our attention as we breathe in to notice the shoulder blades might rock down on the floor a little bit towards the hips. And as we breathe out, they might float up a little bit towards the head. Breathing in, that belly button goes up towards the ceiling, the tip of the tailbone gently rocks down. Breathing out, past neutral, a gentle contraction in the abdomen. Tip of tailbone goes up to the ceiling and our back is flatter on the floor. Breathing at your own pace with these bits of awareness for 2 more cycles. Notice as you do this, can you soften even a little bit more? It might be in the glutes or in the inner thighs. It might be the diaphragm or the jaw. It might be the soles of the feet. Just allowing yourself to be curious. And then just allowing yourself to breathe naturally. And when you're ready, letting your legs be long. And again, having a pillow underneath the knees if it feels right for you. Allowing everything to soften and everything to rest. We always finish as we started with the tilt and flatten that you just did and the Soma scan, and start and end. So allowing yourself to be present in your body here and now. Drawing your attention to your breath. Noticing how is it different than it was before. Moving your attention up to your head, neck, and face. Notice, do you have a pillow now as you did before? Is the head placement different on the floor or on your pillow than when we started? Is there less tension in the head, neck, and face? And focusing down now into the shoulders. Noticing, are they further from your ears? Are they more rested into the floor? Noticing the shoulder blades. Do they present more equally in the weight on the floor? Or how are they different? Noticing the tension line through the pecs and chest. Just seeing if it's a little different than it was before. Moving into the mid-back, noticing how it lays on the floor now. Moving into the ribs and the abdomen, the hips and the pelvis. Noticing the hips, are they more equal? Do the glutes lay more evenly on the floor? Is there less tension in them and the pelvic floor? Just noticing what is different. Moving into the arms. Notice, are they in a different place than when you started today. And allowing yourself to notice if the tension in them feels different. Are they softer or longer or lighter? And moving into the legs, notice, do they feel longer or more equal? Does the presentation of tension seem different than it did before? Moving into the knees and the calves, all the way down to the ankles and feet. Noticing if the placement of the feet is different than when you started. And allowing yourself to do a gentle scan of anything else that calls your attention. Just noticing how it is different than when we started. And when you are ready, allowing yourself to roll to one side or the other. So for a moment, we're just going to do one more quick movement. Quick yet slow. So you can turn on to your left side. You're going to think about your body sitting in the most beautiful, tall queen's chair. You can have a pillow underneath your head if you'd like. And so thinking about sitting on a chair, so your knees are going to be out at 90 and your toes are going to be down. So if you were to look past your knees, you'd see those little tootsies. And thinking about your shoulders and your hips in alignment, just like there was a big, tall back of a chair. Noticing if your top shoulder is leaned back in comparison to your bottom one. And so we want that to be like it was sitting in a tall chair as well. So that top shoulder in alignment with the bottom one. And we can play with that by moving gently forward just to see. Can you feel how that feels different than leaning back than that? And one position might feel a little more comfortable, but just allow yourself to be curious where neutral might be. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a very tough one to perceive. That's pretty good. Yeah, and you can, like I say, play with the position with a little gentle rock back and gentle rock forward. And so with this one, we've done the internal rotation of the thigh before, and so this is it in a different position. So thinking about that top leg, we're going to internally rotate the thigh, our knees will stay together, and our top foot will float gently up towards the ceiling, internally rotating from the hip, and slowly with control bringing it back down, rotating it back out. You're going to engage the glutes on this one, slowly with control, and then when at neutral, stop. Important, the most important step. Soften and rest. Let it all become supple. And then when you're ready, again, internally rotating from the hip, soft in the lower back, soft here, soft here. Slowly with control, bringing the hip back to neutral. Notice how it kind of clicks or glitches, so recontract a little bit and slowly control all the way down. Once at neutral, let everything soften and everything rest. Just checking in through the system if there's any other spot that could soften just a little bit more. And then when you're ready, bringing your hand that is resting on your leg up and above your head. And so it'll cup your head. And so we're going to think about our side body, the sideline, the area again between the armpit and the hip. And so we're going to just focus on the upper part for a moment, thinking about bringing this armpit closer to the hip, lifting the head, elbow, and neck up off the floor, contracting through the side body just a little, and slowly with control, bringing it back down to neutral. Really thinking about those lats, those powerhouse muscles, the serratus, all those intercostals that can be buggers. Slowly with control, all the way back down. When you're at neutral, let everything soften. Let everything rest. And adjusting your hand if you need to place it in a different position. Some people like it resting over the top of the head so it goes almost towards the ear that's down on the pillow. And so on the next one, we're going to engage that internal rotation of the leg and that lifting of the head and neck, shortening from the hip to the armpit. Internally rotating that leg, that foot will rise. Head, neck will come up, and slowly with control, bringing it all back down to neutral. Slow and steady with control. And knowing that that bottom hand can just rest. It does not need to help. And for those that have had neck injuries or whiplash, sometimes the strength in the neck isn't there. And so that's when doing it just with the mind's eye can be just as much. So one more time on this side. Really thinking about that internal rotation from the hip. Creating that space through here, and then slowly with control, lengthening that side body back down to neutral, and bringing the leg back to neutral. Letting that head and everything rest all the way down. And once you're there, allowing yourself to go on your back for a moment and turn onto your other side. Thinking about that big, tall queen's chair, knees at 90, toes out in front of the knees, hips aligned with the shoulders, shoulders aligned with each other, noticing that tilt if it feels like you're back or forward or neutral. And slowly bringing your toes out in front of you, so if you were to look past your knees, you'd see them. Again, trusting your body, knowing that if you need to adjust anything in this position, do so. So bringing the knees up so you're a little more at 90. There you go. Does that feel a little more stable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so then when you're ready, let everything soften. Let everything rest. And then engaging that internal rotation of the leg. Notice, is the other hip going with it, or can it find a little bit of its own movement? And slowly, with control, bringing it all back to neutral. And notice where that memory information is missing, where it kind of goes. We want to re-engage the contraction and slowly come out of it. Okay, so you do this one in that lower leg a few more times to communicate it, but we want to be mindful of the time today. And so internally rotating that thigh. And slowly, with control, bringing it to neutral. And then let everything soften. Let everything rest. And you may even notice that you might want to reset the pelvis and the hips where they are in time and space. And the next one, we're going to engage that upper body when you're ready. So arm is up and above the head, thinking about shortening that line between the armpit and the hip. So lifting the head, neck, and elbow up to the ceiling, shortening that sideline, internally rotating the leg, and slowly, with control, bringing it all back down to neutral. And so on this next one, don't worry about the leg. And just let everything soften and let everything rest before you do. Can we try a different hand position? So taking the head like that. And so it's just going to gently encourage it, right? So we're going to give you the pillow. There you go. And so resting there, finding neutral. And then slowly thinking about lifting the head, neck, yeah. Feeling that through there. That's lots, that's lots. Slowly, with control, bring it back to neutral. And you can feel those little jitter. Yeah, those are that sensor motor amnesia. That's where there's missing information. So you'd want to recontract and take it through again, okay? So then, again, let everything soften, let everything rest. And then just thinking, not a big motion, but thinking about internally rotating that thigh so that knee will hold together, that top foot will start to float. That's lots. And now lifting the head, neck, and elbow, shortening this, bringing that hip up. That's lots, that's lots. Slow and steady, control back to neutral. Slow and steady. So noticing those glitches, recontract, and taking it back to neutral. And then when you're at neutral, let everything soften and let everything rest. And if it feels right for you, I'm doing one more on this side. And even just in your mind's eye can be a lot. That's lots. And control all the way back down to neutral. And then resting on your back for a moment. And letting everything soften, letting everything rest. And taking your time to notice, and then bring yourself to a seated position.